Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Trek and Faith, where we not only explore strange new worlds, but we explore the faith that weaves through them. I'm your host, John Lane, and today we're going to be diving into Season 5, Episode 19 of Star Trek The Next Generation, The First Duty. It first aired on March 30th, 1992, and was written by Ronald D. Moore and Naren Shankar, and directed by Paul Lynch. The episode begins with the Enterprise D heading to Earth as Captain Picard has been chosen to give the commencement address at Starfleet Academy, and where he will also witness a flight demonstration by a group of graduating cadets, with Wesley Crusher being one of them. Admiral Brand then contacts Picard telling him of an accident involving Wesley, where a cadet during a flight exercise tragically died. Picard and Wesley's mother, Dr. Beverly Crusher, then go to the Academy to visit Wesley, where he still seems to be shaken up about the whole situation. This is where we meet Nicholas Locarno, the squad leader, and after Picard and Crusher leave, Locarno tells Wesley that everything will be alright as long as the squad sticks together. We then have a small scene with Picard in the Academy's gardener, Boosby, where he tells him how much he appreciates him for guiding him through his youth, and asks him if he knew the cadets, to which he says he does. Picard would go on to visit Boosby a couple other times throughout the episode, just for some advice and so forth, and we'll get more onto that later. We then cut to the hearing where Locarno reassures the squad that everything will be alright once again, and as the hearing commences, each cadet is questioned in the roles they played during the exercise. They start with the navigation leader, Cadet Hajar, where she denies deviating from the flight plan. However, due to some overlooked details that Admiral Brand saw with it when they recovered the ship's black box, she starts to question it, but Hajar claims that they changed the flight plan on the way, and thought the details were too insignificant to report. Then they question Cito Jaxa about how she should have seen the collision happening outside the viewport window, and yet claims that she did not see it coming. She claimed that she was only flying on sensor readings alone, in which everyone is questioning this, considering the unusual behavior of going only on sensor readings during a flight exercise, and that she did not even know the orientation of Josh Albert's ship from the sensor readings, despite the fact that it was only about 10 meters away. Josh Albert, by the way, being the cadet that tragically died in the accident. Locarno then interjects, claiming that Josh Albert was getting nervous right before the simulation, and lately, as a whole, becoming more erratic. This leads the court to question why they never reported this behavior to the higher-ups, claiming that they had flown together so much that he wanted to give Albert the chance. When asked if it was Albert's fault, Locarno claims that he got frightened and pulled out of the maneuver early, and that since Albert was their friend, they didn't want him to be remembered this way. Disturbed by all of this, the jury then dismisses them, and Locarno tells the others once again that everything will be alright, though it seems there are holes now starting to form through their testimonials. We then see the cadets back in their dorms, with Wesley pointing out to Locarno that they promised not to lie to the jury, with Locarno claiming that he did not lie, and that he believes that Albert did panic, to which none of them can prove for sure, even though Wesley believes that the accident wasn't his fault. It wasn't, but more on that later. Locarno also points out that the lab was only able to recover about a third of the data from the black box, to which all of the data recovered was before the accident. Wesley is still unsure, though, about not telling the entire story, but Cito points out that he doesn't need to lie. Just don't give more details than needed. This can be seen as lies of omission, which we will definitely touch on later. That night, Wesley then has a conversation with Josh Albert's father, with his father commending Wesley on how good of a friend he was to his son, whether it be serving with him, helping him with classes, etc. He then proceeds to apologize that his son let them down, when in reality, it might not entirely be the case. The hearing then continues the next day, with Wesley describing their flight plan, telling them that they performed a Jaeger loop. However, the jury then brings a photo from the black box that shows their shuttles in a strange formation after the loop's completion, indicating that another move might have been made after the completion of the loop. More holes are starting to form in their stories, indicating that something is amiss and something is not entirely lining up. Picard then visits Boosby again, where they talk about Nova Squadron in comparison to the Squad of 24, and how their image was hard to live up to, as the other cadets see them more or less as gods. The class of 24, from what I can remember, I believe is Captain Picard's graduating class, if I remember correctly. He points out that Nick Locarno keeps the team together and is a figure that the squad looks up to for guidance, and will probably do mostly anything for him if it's for a good cause, or there's good intentions behind it. Even might include lying, who knows. Picard then goes to consult with Geordi and Data on the Enterprise to go over the data collected and see if there's anything that the jury might have missed. Geordi tells him that the only thing that they found was that they released their engine coolant while in flight, igniting it, to where Picard finally puts together what really happened. Later on, Wesley meets with Picard detailing the Culvert Starburst, a maneuver that has been illegal for about 100 years due to the entire crew at the time of its performance, getting killed while performing it. He suspects that Locarno wanted to end his academy career in a blaze of glory and believes that Locarno forced the others to learn the maneuver and lied to the jury about what really happened that day. Wesley then tells Picard that he did not lie, he just did not reveal the rest of the information due to pressure, to which Picard then points out that a lie of omission is still a lie, and that the first duty of an officer in Starfleet is to the truth. He then gives Wesley an ultimatum, telling them that if he doesn't tell the Corps what happens, then he will. Wesley meets back up with Locarno to tell him that Picard knows everything, and that he will threaten to tell the jury if they don't fess up. Nick tells him to relax and that despite Picard figuring it all out, he has no solid proof to link them to the dangerous maneuver whatsoever. Besides the starburst, which could very easily be corrupted footage for all they know. However, Wes can't do that as his consciousness won't let him, which follows up with Nick guilting him into not telling the court, saying that he would betray everyone in the squad if he did, and he would be better off resigning his commission. The jury then reappears for the last time, and with no tangible evidence, despite the fact that the jury believes that the squad is hiding something and that they're deeply disturbed by what they heard over the last couple days, since they have no tangible evidence, Admiral Brain has no choice but to give them a reprimand on their records. However, Wesley wisens up in the end and tells the court everything that transpired that day. Wesley and the other cadets all have to stay at the academy for another year, while Nick, being the leader that he is, takes responsibility and asks to lower their punishment to just that, while he in the process gets expelled from Starfleet Academy. Picard is still not pleased with Wesley in the end, because again, he did lie. However, he is happy that he came to his senses and always believed that he would do the right thing in the end. He just needed that push. This episode definitely heavily details the implications that come when lying and omitting information, and how that it is just as bad as lying, if not worse. Lying is one of the worst things that a person can do, and is a rule that should not be broken, as it is one of the 10 Commandments listed in Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. Proverbs 10:9 also goes into detail about this, stating, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." Lying to people is not right, to say the least, and as demonstrated in this episode, one of the main motivations to lie is to save your own skin, and to not have to face the consequences you would have otherwise faced. When Locarno's maneuver failed, he knew the repercussions if he was found out, and influenced his squad to skirt around the information that the court had no way of getting their hands on, just so they could escape the fact that their squad leader, and then by association, accidentally killed one of their own squad members. And as Picard stated in the episode, a lie of omission is still a lie. In fact, Scripture agrees with that sentiment, with a verse from James chapter 4, verse 17, stating, "If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them." Wesley was always on the fence about going on with Locarno's plan of trying to get out of trouble, and everything he said in the hearing was true. However, Wesley and his squad mates still left out vital information that would have determined what really happened. He may not have lied verbally, but he still lied nonetheless for not telling the court the information sooner. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16 even has some impact to this, where it states, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." Locarno may have been trying to save the squad mates, but by telling the court that Albert was flying scared, it seemed more as a way of getting out of a bad situation, and by doing so, tainted Albert's good name. Lying has happened all the way since the beginning of man as well, all the way from Genesis in chapter 3, verse 17, stating, "To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life." Adam did not lie to God, as he did not pick the fruit from the tree. Eve did. However, when God confronts both of them, Adam gets the same wrath as Eve in the situation. Both took part in breaking God's covenant, despite the fact that in verse 12 earlier on in the same chapter, Eve was the one to give the fruit to Adam. Nevertheless, he still took part in the sin. It was not Wesley's idea to perform the culvered starburst. However, by taking part in it with Locarno and the rest of the cadets, he too also shared the guilt that was bestowed upon them when their best friend died. However, Wesley does wisen up and tell the truth in the end, showcasing what John chapter 8 verse 32 says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Wesley fortunately did wisen up in the end and did what was right. Overall, this was a really good episode showcasing not only how a lie, whether by omission or outright lying, can affect not only the people telling the lie, but the people around them as well. Wesley didn't come out of this having to suffer consequences like disappointing Albert's father, especially after he told Wesley how sorry he was that his own son let him down, when it was clearly the other way around. However, along with having to redo his entire final year, he did have that punishment to face. However, he did wisen up in the end and did what needed to be done. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Trek and Faith.